It has never been a cooler time to be a worship keys player. Modern worship music is full of exciting sounds and parts for worship musicians to play. But how do we go about learning all of those cool parts and sounds we hear in popular songs? Sure, there are chord charts and lead sheets and even tutorials online. But what if you can't find any resources for the song that you're playing? Or maybe you're the kind of person that prefers to try and figure it out rather than read your parts off of a paper. Today, we're gonna walk through a step-by-step process that teaches you how to listen and learn specific keys parts that are present in a worship song. By the end of this video, you too will be able to listen to a song and pick out the keys parts that are being played. Quick note, I will be using the Sunday Keys app for all of my keys sounds, but this video is going to focus on the parts, not so much the sounds. So if you want to learn more about the sounds that we use, check out this video linked in the description. So let's get started. In order to listen to a song and pick out the keys parts, we've got to start with the very basics of what is called ear training or aural training. Ear training is the process of connecting our music theory knowledge to what we hear. Ear training teaches us how to identify chords, scales, intervals, and pitches. The very first step in training your ear is learning how to match pitch. And by the way, singing is also a very important part of ear training, but don't worry, you don't have to be a rock star singer to do this. So I'm going to start by playing a single note, and then I'll sing what I think the note is, and then raise or lower my pitch until I feel that the vibration in my chest is the same as what I'm hearing. So I'll just play middle C. And then I feel that that vibration is the same as what I'm hearing. Another way to identify when you've successfully matched pitch is when you suddenly no longer hear the piano or the instrument that you're playing that note on. Having this skill in your toolbar allows you to find the starting note of whatever part you're trying to learn in a song. An interval is the space between two notes, and we use specific names to quantify the distance between those notes. In ear training, one of the ways that we identify intervals is by finding popular melodies or songs that sound similar to the intervals so that we can more quickly identify them when listening to a song. So, for example, the distance between middle C and C sharp is a minor second. And if I play these two notes, it sounds like the Jaws theme. Right? You can hear it. Now, the next interval is a major second, so that's from C to D. Now, this interval sounds like the beginning of Happy Birthday. The next interval is a minor third, and that's from C to D sharp. And this interval sounds like Greensleeves. If you play this interval going down, it sounds a bit different. The next interval is the perfect fourth, so that would be from C up to F. And this sounds like Here Comes the Bride. The next interval is called the tritone, and that's from C up to F sharp. Now, this interval is a little bit more difficult to identify. This interval is in the melody to the song Maria in West Side Story, as well as the Simpsons theme song. The next interval is the perfect fifth, and that is from C up to G. This one's a little bit easier to identify because it's pretty common, but if you need help identifying this, you can think of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. The next interval as we move farther apart on the keyboard is the minor sixth, and that moves from C up to G sharp. This interval is present in the popular piano song called The Entertainer, which it starts like this. The next interval is the major sixth, and that goes from C up to A. Some of these bigger intervals can be a little bit more difficult to identify. So I personally really lean on these popular melodies and jingles to help me identify them when I hear them in songs. This one sounds like the jingle to NBC. The next one is the minor seventh, which is C up to A sharp or B flat. This interval is also present in the Broadway musical West Side Story in the song called Somewhere. The next interval is the major seventh, and that is from C all the way up to B. Now, you might be able to identify this right away because it feels like it's leading right into that octave up. If you can't identify that and you need a reference, you might be familiar with the song Take On Me. And this interval is present in the very beginning of that melody. The final interval is the octave, and this is from C all the way up to C. Now, if you can identify this without any kind of reference, that's great. And if you need a song to identify it, maybe you can think of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Being able to identify intervals is a great skill to have in our tool belt, and it allows us to start identifying the rest of the notes in the parts that we're trying to learn. Scales are a super important thing to be familiar with if you are a worship keys player. If you're not familiar with your scales and your chords, I highly recommend brushing up on that knowledge before trying to pick out a part in a song. Understanding the key that you're in will help to inform what notes are likely being played in a part and will cut out unnecessary time you would have spent figuring that out. Knowing what chords you're playing at any given time will help to narrow down what notes are being played in the lead line or the riff. Lead lines often start on a note that's present in the chord that's being played. If you want to practice these skills and get better at knowing your chords and your scales and your intervals, I recommend checking out a resource like musictheory.net. This website allows you to practice these skills so that you can get faster at identifying your keys and your scales. The first step is to find the key of your song and get the chord chart for the song. The chord chart will provide the tonal outline of what's happening in the song, and that will help you figure out what notes are happening at what times. We're going to use the song Sea of Victory by Elevation Worship as an example. The key for this song is B flat. So if we know our scales, then we know that the notes that are available to us are B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A, and B flat. Now, I do want to note that there are some times when notes outside of the key are used in worship songs, but most of the time, the majority of the notes being used will be in the key, so it's a good place to start. The second step is to find the chord progression of what's happening. So let's dig into the intro chord progression of Sea of Victory. This song starts with G minor, and then moves to E flat, and then to B flat. So it sounds like this. So now that we know what chords we're playing, we can more easily identify what notes might be available for the lead line to start on. So the third step is to find the first note in the lead line. So let's listen to the intro of Sea of Victory. So in order to find that first note, we're going to use the skill of matching pitch. So now that we've listened to it, I know that the first pitch sounds like this. So now I just need to find what note that is. So our lead line starts on middle C. There are a few ways to figure out the rest of the notes in the lead line. The first way is to sing along to the lead line and then go note by note, matching pitch and making sure you have each note in the line. Another way to do this is to go interval by interval and figure out each note. Or you can identify notes in the chord and determine which sounds closest to what's happening in the lead line. So we know that our lead line starts on middle C. And we're going to go through the line and pick out which notes in the chord sound closest to each next note. So let's listen to the intro one more time so we can pick out what's going on. So what I hear is happening in the intro as the lead line is this. It starts on middle C, and then it sounds like this. So let's figure out what is happening with the chords. The first two notes are a pickup. Sounds like it goes up, so that feels right. And then my first chord is G minor. So let's go through these notes. So my first two notes. That sounds like it could be right. Let's go through the next note in the chord, which is B flat. That feels like it doesn't go down quite low enough. And then the D, let's go ahead and jump this down an octave because I know that the next note goes down. And that definitely feels like too far. So we're going to stick with the G. So we have our first three notes, and then the next chord is an E flat. So let's go through the same progression. We're going to go through the first three notes and then pick out each note in the chord. Doesn't quite feel right. And that's the same note that we were previously on, so we're not going to choose that one. So let's try the B flat. And that sounds about right. So we'll stick with those as the first four notes. We just have one more note to figure out. So our next chord is B flat. So let's go through the same process. That feels like it goes down a bit too far. I'm not quite sure on that one, but it still doesn't feel quite right. And that feels right. So now we have figured out each note in our intro lead line. So let's play this lead line with the recording so we can see if I got it right. So that sounds about right to me. If you want some extra practice going through these steps, I recommend checking out the bridge to this song and learning the lead line that's happening during that section. Leave a comment and let us know how you did in learning this part by ear. Simply take these 4 steps and apply the process to whatever song you're hoping to learn. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to hit the like button and get subscribed to our channel so you don't miss out on any of the free content that we put out every single week. I'm Julia with Sunday Sounds, and I'll see you next time.